You're listening to Open Bible, Open Life with Pastor Kyle Mercer. At Two Cities, we're passionate about making and mobilizing disciples, and that doesn't end with Sunday. We're here to bring God's word and work into your week so you can be equipped to be sent wherever you go.
Well, it's about to be Christmas, and today I sat down with Pastor Caleb, and we talked about how do we keep Christ at the center of Christmas. It's not easy. Sometimes we need a lot of help with doing that, and Pastor Caleb shares some great ideas that have worked for him personally and for his family, and I think might work for you as well. I think you're going to enjoy this episode of the podcast. Well, Pastor Caleb, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, man. Good to be back again.
You actually are the first person, I think we talked about this before, but let's just get it on the record. You're the first person at Two Cities on our staff to have a podcast.
Thank you for the acknowledgement.
But actually during the series that you liked the name the least, Faith IRL. Yeah. You and Pastor Stephen, just give us, because here we are in this beautiful podcast room with this great team that's helping us. Where did this podcast start?
Dude, this is a massive step up.
Massive upgrade.
I remember being in my office, in our offices on Broad Street. So, imagine that with
we were
all
there
the
for
glass
3 years
around and everything. Yep. And Wes was desperately trying to teach me how to record myself on my own computer. We had the audio hookups. There's cables everywhere, and I think there was at least 3 that re-recorded that actually didn't
that never happened. And there's no video back then. It's
no.
The only option. There's no YouTube. It's just
all audio. You know, we're putting together all of our goofy things on it, and but I mean, raving fan base.
Yes,
dozens of them.
Dozens.
And
both of them very upset when it was
very
done.
upset.
That's
very
right.
upset. I will say though, I mean, I still think that me and Steven have more reviews on Apple than you do.
It's true. The amount of comments and the cult-like fan club that you guys
there
created.
is a cult-like. You know, that's the best way to describe it. That's for sure.
Well, man, it is officially Christmas season, so that's why you're wearing your Christmas sweater.
It has been for me for a few weeks.
Now, you and I can't remember. You and I have had this conversation. I've had this conversation with a lot of people. When it comes to Christmas, we're going to dive into this today. We're going to talk about Advent and all this stuff. Are you right after Halloween we do Christmas decorations, or are you right after Thanksgiving?
Neither. So
July.
For no.
Christmas in July.
So I will say I was very pleased with you.
Yes,
when I walked into your house and I saw your decorations up before mine.
Yes,
which was great. So for me and my wife, I always we both arrived here kind of on our own paths. So when we got married, I always like doing it a couple weeks before Thanksgiving. Because when you do it at Thanksgiving, it feels too short.
I agree. Especially now that we're adults and we're the ones putting them up and taking them down.
Yes. So my wife used to do it on her own when she was single every November 11th. And so that's Veterans Day. She was off of school. She had a day to be able to put it up. So every November 11th is we call it our holiday jubilation. And that's when we kick off the Christmas season. Our girls get their first presents. So it's usually Christmas pajamas, a new Christmas book. We get a new Christmas record on vinyl this year. I don't know if you know this. Was the 30th anniversary of one of the greatest Christmas albums of all time that we got. Any guesses?
30th anniversary of the greatest.
Dig deep.
Is this Mariah Carey?
It was Mariah Carey.
Come on, dude.
Yes.
We did not talk about this beforehand. That was
one
guess.
Man.
Come on.
Yes. And so we're introducing our girls to the whole album of Mariah Carey's Christmas, man.
Wow.
And so,
okay, last question about Christmas before we dive in. What is the best Christmas gift that you have ever been given?
I got to split it. And
okay.
So, and they're very similar with each other. So in high school, I'm very musician, and so I picked
the first worship leader ever at Two Cities.
True story, yes. And so, I played piano most of my childhood. I took lessons all the way through high school, but I really wanted to learn guitar. And so I can't remember what year it was. Maybe it was my sophomore year, junior year. My parents bought me a guitar. It was just like a Washburn, blue Washburn.
Yeah.
And so, but that's where I got, started, teaching myself guitar. And then my wife, a handful of years ago, got me my first mandolin. And so,
come on,
love doing
actually
that.
interesting. They're both instruments.
Yes. Yeah.
See, my favorite Christmas gift. There's no comparison. There's not. Do you know what it is?
That would be third place because it would be true for me. N64.
Yes.
Come on, bro.
Come on.
This was like, that was one of the greatest.
Now, if you're under 30 years old, you don't realize there was no Amazon.com. There was not, I don't even know supply chain stuff, whatever. But I'm like, I remember talking to my mom, and she was like, and I think she was telling me the truth. She's like, we looked everywhere. At the time, it's like, if Toys R Us doesn't have it, Toys R Us doesn't even exist anymore.
No.
If Toys R Us doesn't have it, I mean, maybe there was Walmart. There was no Target. Anyway, there was no online. And so the day, my brother and I still look at the picture. I mean, that was the most real and sincere smile. The joy that we had ever had. Playing that in Mario and like Wave Runner.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Those are
two questions.
Games.
What was your first game? So Mario.
And then Wave Runner came with it. But I mean, I'm getting those 120 stars.
Did you get like oh yeah, dude. Did you get the dolphin? Ride the dolphin?
Of course.
Yeah, dude.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about all that. But
one last thing.
Go ahead,
have you seen the movie 8-Bit Christmas?
No.
You should watch it.
This came out
very
recently,
hilarious. It's
right?
hilarious, very heartfelt. It is basically the Christmas story,
Okay.
a Christmas story, wants a Red Ryder a BB gun, set in the 80s for a kid who wants a Super Nintendo.
I need to see it.
And it's just kind of like that.
Well, that
you just triggered my mind.
One other thing then. Okay, top favorite Christmas movie.
It's a Wonderful Life.
You're in all sappy on me. Okay, it's a good one. Okay, but can I get more modern?
Okay.
Spirited.
Spirited is way up there.
Dude, it is. There's even some gospel themes in there.
Yes.
Am I unredeemable? Can
Yes.
somebody really be changed?
Yes. So that's one of the ones we save our favorites until the end, and that's made its way much closer to Christmas. That, Klaus, I don't know if you've seen
The most
Klaus,
unbelievable thing about that,
beautiful
I
one.
need to see that, but the most unbelievable thing about that is that Will Ferrell can sing.
He is.
Kind of.
He'll surprise you.
I was like, what is going on here?
Eurovision,
Another, is that a Christmas movie?
No,
it's like Die Hard. There's some winter themes.
Yeah.
Okay, so on a serious note now, we, thanks to you, preaching this past weekend, we just have launched into our Messengers series, which basically, so let's talk about this for a second. Because we're going to talk about Advent. How can families think about celebrating Christmas? Let's talk for a few minutes. How should churches think about celebrating Christmas? In other words, how do you see churches celebrate Christmas? Maybe even thinking, we can go back and forth here. How have we done it differently over the years?
I mean, obviously different Christmas series, just trying to
I'm
think
testing
through
you now because you didn't know these questions were coming.
Nah, dude,
okay,
I can't
can you remember?
all the series.
Okay, so here's the truth. Most times, I've looked back on this, okay, because I've got all my sermon notes. Most times we have just done a one. I don't know what you call it, like a one-off Christmas Eve message. I or somebody we were preaching in a series, and then it's Christmas Eve, and for me, Christmas Eve and Easter are the hardest sermons and easiest sermons to write every year.
Oh, for sure.
And so even this year,
well-trodden path, but you got to find different ways to say.
Well, it's like when you're
things.
talking about Christmas Eve service, you're going to go to the beginning of Matthew, the beginning of Luke, the beginning of John, or an Old Testament prophecy.
Yeah.
So we have mostly done that. Now, last year we did. I'm going to just test you. I'm not because I don't know if I could even remember if I. Do you even know the series we did last year?
Dude, you and Dave and Spencer are the ones who
think about it.
Hold on.
It was unique last year. I'll give you the first word: wisdom.
Oh, yeah, wisdom. So the Psalms.
Wisdom for the holidays. Proverbs. Yeah,
Proverbs.
So that was like a
because I did one on friendship, I guess. Yeah.
Yes.
I remember doing the spiritual disciplines ones.
That's right. So here's what we've done. Just because here's what I want to kind of get at. You don't have to do the same thing. Just as a church doesn't have to do the same thing every year. Your family doesn't have to do the same thing every year. But we want to have healthy rhythms. We're always going to do a Christmas Eve sermon that's special, significant. In I think both Christmas Eve and Easter for the people attending, it's not so much that they're waiting to hear some great insight that they've never heard.
Sure.
They're ready to remember
the
foundational stories, sing the foundational songs, and be together in a special moment.
Yeah.
But we have done Wisdom for the Holidays one year. That was uniquely, hey, people are thinking about next year at the end of the year. Let's help them with how was kind of the idea. We've done a spiritual discipline series, similar idea. Hey, how do we begin to, at this time of year, let's not try to start January 1st on January 1st. Let's move back. One year we did a Do You See What I See series. I don't know if you remember this. And it was, I don't know why we called it that. We look back now. We'll probably look back at all our series and go, why do we call it that? We were looking at the different, here's Mary's perspective. Here's Joseph's perspective.
Right. Okay. Was that like 2018 or something like that?
One year, I actually preached we were in a series on Abraham, a different series on Abraham than we are now. And I ended with kind of Isaac's birth. And anyway, so sometimes we combined it. This year, let's talk about what we're doing now. So that's all we've done in the past. This year, we're doing a series, Messengers.
Yeah.
We're going to be in 5 different appearances of angels. Have you ever seen an angel?
Yes, I believe so.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me the story.
I mean,
I'm being dead serious.
No, it's very interesting, and I think it aligns with. I think I said this in the message on Sunday, but really there's 2 reasons that angels show up in the scriptures. It's as a messenger and as someone who's coming to strengthen. Somebody.
Messenger and minister.
Yes, messenger and minister. Great language. And so. They're coming to warn, or they're coming to prophesy to bring something about, or it's coming to strengthen somebody, right? And I think the experience I had would be the latter. So every year, for about 5 or 6 years, I used to lead missions trips to New York City. And we would do a couple different things. We would go out into parks and do just evangelism by doing some questionnaires, trying to understand people's worldviews, and then being able to speak into those different things with the gospel. Another thing that we did was go to certain places all around the city and set up prayer stations where we would ask people, hey, how can we pray for you? And often use that as a chance to be able to bring the gospel into whatever situation they were dealing with, that they want to pray for. And I remember, it was probably the 4th year I went there.
How old are you, by the way, roughly?
21, 22. Okay. And I had a team of people that we took, and for the first and only time I've ever done this, we went to Wall Street and set up a prayer station.
Okay.
Versus, Queens, Brooklyn.
So you go to Wall Street, where the bull is.
Different. Yeah. And so, in a lot of other places you would go, man, there's just people flooding. It's nonstop of people just coming and asking for prayer. Wall Street, completely different. The reason is because everybody thinks that they have everything together in that place.
Oh, yeah.
And, we set up, I don't know, it was probably 3 hours in the morning, and we didn't have a single person come.
Wow.
It was so discouraging, so disheartening. We took the team to lunch, and we were just, trying to a lot of people are like, man, let's just go back. Like, this is not happening here for all the reasons. And I was wrapping up. It's like, hey, let's just go out for another hour. Let's see what happens. And so we just kind of dragged ourselves back out there. And we get back out there, and almost as soon as we get back out there, this guy beelines. I see him. He's making eye contact with me right down the sidewalk, making just straight for me. And I'm like, okay, maybe we've got somebody. He comes up and he says, or I say to him, hey, man, is there anything that we can do to pray for you? And he says, no, I'm here to pray for you. I said, okay. And so he comes, he puts his hands on my shoulders, and, some of the other team, they come around, and because they're excited, somebody's showing up. And so he just starts praying for me. And it is, to this day, the most profound scriptural prayer I've ever heard in my entire life. I mean, it was just, he was speaking truth and comfort over me and to our team around us. And
wow.
It was just very, very moving. And I look up, and when he's done, I said, man, thank you. And he looked me in the eyes and he says, I need you to hear something. God is with you, Caleb. God is here with you, Caleb. And I was like, okay. As soon as he walked away, everybody's like, did you tell him your name? I said, no.
Wow.
We looked back up to see where the guy went, and he was not there. There's no way we could have not seen him, but he was just gone. Like, weird. And I've told that story with people, before, different pastors, like, I think that's legitimately could have been an angel. And from that moment, that filled us with what we needed. Man, we prayed with, probably a dozen or more people, from going from nothing after that to, man, really meaningful prayer time and sharing with different people. And so I don't know, at the end of the day, but it's like, does it fit in the category?
It's an interesting thought.
It could be.
In my morning devotions, I think it was yesterday, I'm doing the Bible in a Year plan, And I'm in, at least in the version, I'm in the MacArthur version. And so I was in Hebrews 12. I think it's Hebrews 12 or 13. I think it's 12, where it talks about practicing hospitality. And some have, I think about the Newsboys back in the day, entertaining angels. There. So I'm like, okay, it says in there, some have entertained angels unaware. And so it's, I kind of asked the question of, did you ever think you did? But sometimes you may not ever even know. And again, it's like all things. It's like, I think of C.S. Lewis, who says, you know this, but from Screwtape Letters, here's the two dangers. Never think about it too much with demons. I think the same thing with angels. The only, and I kind of say this tongue in cheek, but the only time I've ever said to my kids, man, I may have seen an angel, was I ran out of gas. Have I told you the story? Yeah. I'd just tell it real quick, but for everyone else. But I basically run out of gas. I'm at Elon University. We're coming back from Duke. We went there because I was in Greek class and we were looking at some papaya. Anyway, I've got these two ladies, in maybe three ladies in my car, two ladies and a guy in my car, and I'm responsible to take them home. And I ran out of gas because we were in standstill traffic on 40, and I don't know what to do. And I'm like and I get up in the traffic and I get out of the car and I've got these ladies with me and I'm like, what do I do? And within 2 minutes, this car goes by and a guy just goes, here you go. And it was not a 1 gallon, but a 4 gallon thing of gasoline. And I'm like, maybe that was just a coincidence and a really nice guy. But I'm like, a guy that just says, I think he said, God bless you. He didn't say Jesus Christ, but and I'm like, it was just one of those moments where you go, anyway, I love the sense of, again, not is there an angel under every rock, but the sense of wonder. Yes. It's interesting in the New Testament. What's interesting is, I haven't thought about this a lot, thinking about it right now with you. We don't have a lot of angel appearances after the beginning of the New Testament. Am I correct in that? I'm trying to think in my mind. I'm like, there's a lot early on. Everything that we're looking at is going to be basically in Luke or Matthew 1 and 2 for the most part.
Yeah, that's correct.
And there's not much, we have the angel of the Lord in the Old Testament. We only get 2 angels' names in the Bible, Gabriel and Michael, outside of the fallen angel, Satan.
Yeah, it's very rare.
Yeah.
People think it's just common occurrence. It's no. Yeah. No, it's extremely rare even for Scripture, for them to be showing up. And
so part of what we're trying to do in the Messenger series, which is, we talk to our comms team, and this some, but we always have an idea of where the series is going to go. But then week to week, we never know. Based on the text, based on what God's doing in our church, in our city, in our heart, it can change. I know for you, talking about Luke chapter 1, we don't need to restate yours, but as you're studying that, as you see the angel, what was your biggest takeaway personally from that story?
In terms of the angel, I talk about this, but it reminds me of my son. Yeah. Who we named after him, and so it was just a good reminder of, all of our story with him and everything. But I think too, what we see come up is when Zechariah does not believe the Lord.
Yes.
He brings about discipline.
Yep.
And I thought that was just a profound thing, how, God used Gabriel to just really take his doubt, take his unbelief, and use it as an opportunity for discipleship.
Yes.
And so, that was just a profound thing to me.
Yes.
Just as, Gabriel being an instrument of, our discipleship being formed more into Christ. And there is something, again, that I think about that. It's just so spiritual. Demons, angels, man, all of that comes to bear in us being formed.
Yes.
We don't think about it often as directly as that, but there is spiritual forces outside of us that are shaping and influencing us constantly.
Way more than we know.
For sure. And so that was a really interesting thought for me. And something I couldn't really get into it, just not enough time. But I thought that was a pretty deep thought, as I was thinking through those different things. And so,
well, I'm looking forward to this series in light, because I think what as we've talked as a group as we've planned out this sermon series, one of the things we've seen is that, man, there is so many different events and emotions connected to those events whether it's the angels appearing to Zechariah or the angel, or whether it's, Mary or Joseph or the shepherds, and just the unique words they bring. So I hope that this series for our church will uniquely be pastoral to people and comforting to people who at the end of the year are are not that excited about how this year's gone. You know, maybe something happened. Or, you know, sometimes it's last year, or sometimes they're looking into your head and they're going, man, you know, as much as maybe we're sometimes as excited about a church, here's what we're doing, here's where we're going. They're like, I'm depressed.
Yeah.
And my mom's not here this Christmas the first time. And so hopefully that our church will feel, as much as we are heading into the future and we ending our Multiply initiative and we're excited about the new year, we are here to minister and to care and to be pastors and be the church for each other.
Amen.
So
yeah, that's our huge heart.
let's talk about Christmas as families. You know, there's a whole thing. I've used this paradigm, which is very famous from probably 15 years ago, you know, when it comes to any of these cultural things, you know, because there's I forget who first said this. Every December, there's 2 Christmases.
Yeah.
You know, there's not, like, there is the Christmas of the Bible and the, you know, nativity scenes and the wise men and the Advent, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
And the Advent calendars. And then there is the Christmas of culture. And there is eggnog and Friendsgiving parties that are finishing up for Thanksgiving, and there's gift giving and white elephant exchange. I can't remember all the things that they do. And cookie exchange. There's just so, and everybody's happy.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody's celebrating, rejoicing.
Or appears to be.
That's true.
Yeah.
But like, what have been? I'm having you on the podcast for many reasons. 1, you're part of this series and teaching it. 1, 2, you're a pastor of our church. But 3, you guys have, you and Kelly have had you on before for different reasons. You guys have, with 4 still very young girls in many ways, but growing up quickly, you guys have tried to be very intentional in so many areas. Tell us about, maybe we'll start with why you personally like Advent.
Yeah.
And then from there, how because there's a lot of things I love, and I'm going, how do I get my family to love this? How do I get my family to be excited? Not that they're not.
Yeah.
But why do you love Advent? And then how have you tried to pass that to your kids?
Yeah. Well, you know.
And what is Advent? Maybe for our listeners.
Yeah, that's a good question. So Advent is the Latin word that means, you know, coming or arrival. Mm-hmm. And so Advent, it's an old idea. You know, it can be, you know, the rhythms and practice of it probably get traced back to the beginning of the official Christmas holiday, you know, back in I think it was like the 4th century or something like that, that they instituted it as a holiday celebrating, recognizing the birth of Christ. And so there's patterns back even as far as that, with the season leading up to that as just a time of like preparation. You know, there was like documented, you know, rhythms of fasting and praying just to get ready for that. And, you know, it kind of worked its way to really being the 4 Sundays a month, or the month leading up to that. And so it's an old idea, but really the idea of Advent is to look back and to look ahead. Mm-hmm. So look back and remember the birth of Christ and everything leading up to it, how there was a longing, there was an anticipation, there was an expectation for the arrival of Christ, and how that is paralleled today in the same way that, you know, God's people were waiting for the Messiah to come, the Savior to come. We're waiting for His return. Yes. And so it's an invitation for us to see ourselves in them and what they were waiting for.
Well said.
And so to look back, to look ahead. And so, man, I think it's just a beautiful idea when we think about bringing more intentionality and thought to the celebration of Christmas. You can get to Christmas Day and you can do a genuine good job of recognizing, hey, this is what this day is about. But I think there's something in making it an extended season. So let's have more intentionality. Let's have more purpose with this. And so, you know, for me, I love Christmas, and my wife does too. And so, all the different things, you know, all the traditions, and we love the world side of things. But, you know, as someone who, you know, loves the Lord, I want to try to make it as intentional as possible. I don't want to get the main reason to be lost in just all the other stuff, you know? And so I think part of it came from a passion and drive just to see, man, how can we make this as Christ-centered a season as possible? You know, and I saw other people do this well, you know, from my time in Louisville, Kentucky with Sojourn. You know, they're a bit more liturgical.
That's right.
And so a lot of churches, they follow the liturgical calendar, and so you've got, you know, a lot of different people who do, you know, We're
So
doing
the same
Advent.
people
We're
who
doing
do
Lent.
Advent
We're
do
doing
Lent.
Yeah, exactly.
Are there other, while we're talking about that for a second, are there other big, those are the two ones I think of. I know there are, it's Pentecost Sunday. Or,
Pentecost, Epiphany, you know.
But in general,
some more
you're talking,
minor ones. It's really those two staples, you know.
As we don't just celebrate Christmas and Easter, we celebrate Advent and Lent.
Yeah, and you really have to go more towards like the Catholic, you know, Eastern Orthodox and different that are really trying to hit all of those
Well, you know what's
things.
interesting, and I may have told you this, but I was recently with a pastor, and he said he read an article where they said this guy was saying the future of the church is, and he was using these kind of categories broadly, but he said the future of the church is charismatic or Catholic. I thought that's really interesting because he said what he's seeing in the church is, and maybe there's a way to bring it all together, the charismatic Catholic.
Sure.
You know? And I'm using the term elastically, but what he's saying is what you're seeing in a lot of churches is they're moving toward more expressive worship, more of a response culture, more prayer, more spontaneity, and that's happening. And lots of churches are doing that, are growing. But then one of the interesting things has been, and I don't know a lot about this. You may know more about this than me. You probably do. A lot of the men who are returning to church are returning to these more liturgical. They're evangelical in heart,
for sure,
but they are more liturgical they're more structured. It's almost like the men come back and go, I want a guy who looks like a priest.
Yeah.
I want this to feel, my life feels so modern. I want this to feel ancient. My life feels so casual. I want this to feel formal.
Yes.
I don't know if that's what it is. I'm trying to figure it out.
No, I think there's a romanticism in some good ways, looking back at society and men, and you know, it's just different. And I think there's something too about liturgy that we crave discipline and structure in our lives.
We do.
That's what it brings is clarity in some of those areas. And it's like, man, okay, we're just going to step into these. And you see the Lord use those and grow you, you know, as any of us do, as we have these holy habits, structure, you know, self-control and all these different things. And so there's an element of that I think men are particularly drawn to, you know?
I agree with that.
And so, yeah.
Sorry, back to, that's what Advent is. Tell us what are some different things that maybe start with what do you guys do as a family?
Yeah.
And then also I think along the way is because I want this episode, this podcast to be as practically helpful, almost in some ways for people as a diving board for them to jump off to and go, for example, if we talk about the Jesse tree, it's like maybe we'll tag that in the show notes. Yeah. People can figure out how to do that. You know, we can talk about different resources. Maybe because I think sometimes how I'll feel, even as I feel like a fairly well-read pastor, I'm like, what's the best Advent devotional?
Sure.
There's so many of them. Paul Tripp's right. There's. I mean, you know, there. And so it's like, okay, what's the best one? Is there one that you'd recommend for couples? Is there one that, you know, okay, I'm trying to bring my kids along, and I want to do more than the Jesse tree because sometimes our experience. Well, we'll get there when we get to the Jesse tree. But sometimes you feel like, okay, as my kids graduate and get older, they need more.
Yes. Yeah. So here's what I would recommend, and I'll actually start somewhere, and I'll get to where we're at, and then I'll move beyond that a little bit. So. Great starting place for young families, for people who are new to this, is just the Advent wreath. You know, you would see these, and again, the more liturgical churches, maybe you think about it growing up, where really it comes back to the 4 Sundays leading up to Christmas. And so that's a little bit of an easier lift where it's like, all right, I got to do 4 days of this.
And a lot of people who grew up in church like this, they're going to remember it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so you got
someone comes up to light it.
Yep. You got the 5, you know, and so, you know, the first candle is, you know, the first Sunday before Christmas, and that represents hope. The second one is peace. The next one is joy. The next one is love. And really, you know, there's so many different ways that people like mark those things. There's not like a set, read this passage or whatever. Really, the point is to remember what we have been given in Christ, what we receive in Christ. You know, you light the candle, you can find, just a passage, you know, pick a Christmas passage and you read it with that. It's like, man, where do you see God's love in this? Where do you see hope? Where do you see joy? Where do you see, you know, all those different things? And then the 5th candle, you know, people light it on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. It's usually white. It just represents Christ. And so that's an easy on-ramp. And I'll actually say, Pastor Ryan, our family pastor, he sent out to all of our families all of our Christmas resources. And there's a guide for how to do that. Great. I think it's super easy, very helpful. It kind of sets you up for, you know, here's what to buy. Here's the passages you can read. Yeah. And so that's the easiest on-ramp if you're just looking to start. What me and my wife do, with our daughters. And so we've got 4 girls, 9, 7, 5, and 3. And we've been able to do this since they were young. You've got to be able to tailor it a little bit with different ages and just kind of know what you're in for. Me and my wife, we've mostly alternated between, you mentioned it already, Jesse Tree ornaments, and then I'll mention the other. So Jesse Tree ornaments.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second.
My wife, for a couple of years, she got different ladies together in the church.
She's she's the matriarch of the Jesse Tree at Two Cities.
Yeah,
we have 3 different
right.
sets from 3 different years, one for each of our kids.
Yeah,
yes.
and so she
the
got,
big heavy tree that we
yeah. And so she would get different ladies, and it's like, the days leading up to Christmas, however many that is, 25 obviously. So they would make 25 different ornaments. That my wife, she was hardcore. She'd wrap them up in wrapping paper, and they, the girls got to take turns on wrapping them. But each ornament is a image or representation of a different story from Scripture, going back from creation all the way to the birth of Christ.
Yes,
and it's all telling one story about how God made us, sin entered the world, and then Jesus Christ was the answer to all of those things.
Amen.
And so, we would take that, and there's stories and great resources that can go along with that you can read that with your kids. And so we would, or let me say the second one. So we more often use something called Christmas Advent blocks. You guys have those?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
With Clayton Greene.
Greene. So our friend Clayton, he made these. He's got a company called GoodKind. And so these blocks.
Maybe we can link that in the show notes as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. And so, dude, tens of thousands of people have bought them. I mean, a lot. It's pretty crazy.
Good for him.
Oh, yeah.
I get the Instagram advertisements this time of year. That's right.
Yeah. Interesting story. They really struggled last year to sell anything because all of their sales come from social media. And guess when they try to market this?
When?
During election season last year.
Oh,
and social media just was
fascinating.
Pushed so much that
there was no space
so
for
little advertising for them. And
that's
so
interesting.
Yeah, go buy Christmas Advent blocks and make them happy. So it's kind of a similar thing. You've got these blocks.
I would say they're very similar, but it adds variety.
Yeah.
You're telling a similar. Go ahead.
But what I like about theirs is they've got a kids devotional that you can use, but then they've got an adult devotional, and so you can kind of age up a little bit with your kids. And so, me and my wife, this typically happens before we go to bed. We get together. Instead of 4 candles, we've got 25 candles.
Come on.
And we just light up. Dude, by Christmas Day...
And a fire.
It's like a fire alarm. Yeah, man. It's like a lot of fire. I'm waiting for the year that one of my girls' hair catches on fire. And so, we light the candle, and then we do the little devotion from the block, and then we always sing a Christmas song,
That's
and so
sweet.
we've done some on the TV. Right now, I'm playing the piano, and we're singing together, which is kind of fun.
That's fun.
We're my older ones are good at it. The younger 2 not so good at it, but we're working on it. Anyway, so we would do that, and man, here's what I've seen: is just there's so much more joy and excitement in their life that's wrapped up in being able to do those things. If you can make it fun, you can make it tangible for them in some way.
Yeah,
they get so much more invested, and it's again this sense of Advent expectation. We're waiting to get to the birth of Jesus, just the build up.
Yeah,
and you kind of train our hearts and their hearts just to do what Advent was meant to do.
I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys do anything like this. When we've done the blocks or done the Jesse Tree, we also will go to, and you don't have to do it from here, but we'll go to Trader Joe's and we'll get the 25 Days of Christmas chocolates.
Oh, yeah.
And so, maybe I'm like not being spiritual enough and I'm focusing, but one of the things the kids get excited about, especially the younger they are, that they get a piece of candy every night as part of it. So you're kind of like connecting this little devotional to, not that you can give a sweet treat every time you ever do a devotional.
It's a good habit.
But I think that's a little fun. I'm just trying to help parents. I would say this, especially if there's, dads who are listening, I would say if you have never done a devotional before with your kids and you just feel like, man, I feel like a failure and I don't even know how to do this. And I'm going to be such a hypocrite to try to do it at Christmas. I would just say, it's a great time to start.
Dude,
because
it is a great time to start.
Literally, and I just want to, look, I know how, even though in some ways it's easier to teach our church for 45 minutes than to keep my kids interested for 5 to 7 minutes sometimes. Yeah. So I just want to say I'm in it with dads. But I want to say that these devotionals, even if your kids are 3, 5, and 6 or whatever, they are so simple that you just get the little. Mine's red on my Kindle, the little Advent Jesse tree thing, and and don't even go to the adult ones. You will be surprised. Yes. It is 1 paragraph, maybe 2 paragraphs. The imagery is beautiful if you get the Jesse tree with the blocks, and people are your kids are going to enjoy it. And I would just say, listen, don't have major expectations.
No.
We've said this before, but I was told the length of your devotional should be the number of minutes of your youngest kid.
Yeah.
So if you're like, man, I've got what it's like, okay, your youngest is 3? Mm-hmm. 3 minutes. I mean, you can go longer, but man, if you did 3 minutes and everyone's still entertained with that many girls going different directions, it's a win. So I don't want to so much lower the bar as much as just set the right expectations.
Yeah, right expectation. I think too with the, just speaking from my own experience, 25 days, rarely are you going to hit all 25 days perfectly.
Yeah, yes.
It's like, man, we're out of town and, I'll switch, our family devotions to the morning sometimes because man, we got community group. We're not staying up.
Yeah, you're not staying. Yeah,
and so either know when to switch it up or it's like you can double tap another day or it's just give yourself grace. It's like, hey, put up that ornament we missed.
Dude, my Bible in a year changed completely when I'm like, if I, for some reason, miss a couple of days because I'm working on my whatever it is, it's like I used to have this Catholic guilt. I'm like, I've got, almost I got to go back.
Yeah.
It's like, give yourself some grace, pick back up where you are. Over the years, you'll get back there. You know what I'm saying? Just in the same way, you missed 5 of the 25 days. Well, great job, man. You did 20 days and you don't normally do hardly any.
Yeah. I mean, the goal is not getting through the devotional.
Yes.
The goal is your kids connecting Christ to the Christmas season, Yes. And so it's that's the goal. Don't take off every 25 day perfectly.
Yeah.
That's not what it's about.
Yeah, and I think one other thing is, I feel the same way in some ways about community group, which is not a podcast on community group, but if you view your family as a little community group, it's like, if you end up talking about the passage, but then the passage makes them ask 6 questions, that somehow just sees life as more connected to what you're talking about. You're talking about sin, and then my son Elon is 9 years old, and I forget what we were talking about the other day, and he said, "Dad, how can you be happy in heaven if somebody that you loved isn't in heaven?" And I was like, "That's a deep question."
Yeah.
And I struggle to answer, but I say all that to say, I'm like, your kids may be thinking more deeply. He's 9. Mm-hmm. He's still a little kid, but he's asking some deep questions. And I think parents, as we just open the door a little bit with a verse, a picture, a question, not every night, but we'll be surprised. You might be tucking your kids in bed later that night, and they're asking a question about David or something. You're like, all right, Lord, you're planting the seed.
Yeah, that's right, man.
Is there anything else that you guys do so uniquely during the Christmas season to try to put in place Christ at the center of it?
Yeah, just the last thing for Advent. That's for the family. I always work through something independently as well. Where I'm still keeping with my Bible reading plan, but I'll grab a devotional. And so you're asking which ones.
Yeah, I was going to say, give us a couple recommendations.
Yeah,
maybe.
John Piper has 2.
He has 2? I knew of 1.
They're very good. And I don't read those physically anymore. I go on because, Solid Joys, his podcast, quick snippet. Every December 1st, they go through one of them.
Oh, that's a good hack.
The auditory.
Solid Joys.
And so I always,
God.
have that, I resubscribe every December 1st. And then I listen to those on the way to the office or something like that.
I love that.
So that... Paul Tripp has a couple that are really solid. Last year, I bought Al Mohler's Advent devotional that he put out.
Is it the red book?
Yes, you got one.
So I was given one.
So I was planning on reading that last year, and then there was a production problem. I didn't get it until the week before Christmas. And so I'm going to try it for the first time this year.
That's good. I have that. Okay.
And so I'm always doing something on my own with that. Man, as far as Jesus-centered ones, we always go to a love feast. This has been one of my wife's traditions.
Yeah.
And so
maybe we'll end talking about that. Tell us about your love for Moravian Love Feast.
It's there in part, but we have always done it on Christmas Eve after we've had 2 services at 2 cities. And I'm about ready to let that die.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at love feasts that are not on Christmas Eve.
Okay,
And so,
okay.
But, there's just something that, you get together and you sing all the hymns, with the organ, and, there's something nostalgic about,
I love it.
something like that.
There's the symbolism, and it's, yes.
And, it's so funny. You get like this love feast bun, which is delicious. Moravians, I think Dewey's makes them or whatever. And then my wife, they always get a cup of coffee. My wife says it's her one cup of coffee that she drinks a year. It's at the love feast because she hates coffee. Pray for her. And it's the one cup of coffee that I drink that has creamer in it a year, and it's disgusting.
Pray for you.
So, we both struggle for it. Pray for me. Yeah, that's right. But there's just something that we love about that, and just being able to do that as a candle, or as a family, light the candle, at the end, which Pastor Dave would not love us doing here in our building, and so it's just stuff like that, and I'd say even that we have tons of traditions, not all of them Christ-centered. Things like having cookout on Christmas Eve and Chinese on Christmas Day.
Yes,
I can't really connect that to Christ, but I think they're sanctified in some way.
Yeah, your global lostness, your heart for the nations.
100%. That's of course what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I am looking forward to the series that you helped us launch. I'm looking forward to genuinely trying to. I think part of what Christians try to do, and particularly Bible teachers try to do, is we try to take the familiar and make it fresh.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways we want the story with our kids and with ourselves to be familiar so we know it, but try in new ways to make it fresh. That's why every once in a while I love singing the old songs at Christmas.
Oh yeah.
And I love when there's a new great one.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, I love when we try to mix that together. I love how, at least historically at our church, as we've gotten closer to Christmas, we've added more and more. It's like, I'm making this up, but like early December, it's like one song.
Yeah.
Mid, it's two. Then Christmas Eve, we're singing all of them, and then I just love particularly. Part of it is the we're not going to see each other, for about a week, and our staff's going to be gone. We're going to do a worship at home afterwards. We're going to come back to a new year. You have that feeling at Christmas Eve that everybody's about to wake up with presents, exchanging, you going to see family, getting some rest. There's just that. I love that feeling at our church. I've loved it at every church I've been at. But
so special.
Christmas Eve, people are dressed up.
Yeah.
They're getting pictures. They're inviting friends. Grandma's in town. It is just it's one of the warmest services of our entire year. So I hope if people are listening and never been or been out of town in years past or part of our church, that they'll show up. And man, thank you again for joining us on the podcast. Love the ugly Christmas sweater.
I've got to wrap it, man.
Love it, man. I have one of those as well. So maybe I'll wear that before the end of this year. Thanks for being on here.
For sure.
Thanks for tuning in to Open Bible, Open Life with Pastor Kyle Mercer. We'll be back every week with new conversations, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.